His family suffer, but it hurts me more to hear the scab say, fuck you, Jack, and which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on, boys? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Brilliant, thank you. I just have to say round here, you only have to ask that question once. We all know which side we're on.
Women Against Pit Closures evolved during the strike as a strong, influential voice for women, and many again were instrumental in this Orgreave campaign and still are today and going strong. At last week's election results, the message was loud and clear. Our radical manifesto has mobilised a movement that will see a Labour government in power in the very near future. Collectivism is the answer. We work for the many, not the few. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
We've got to recognise that there is another truth and justice campaign that is growing around Britain. There is nothing more shocking, I think, than to see that the lives of working class people, of the poor and immigrants, were worth so little. When it came to a choice between profit and cutting corners on safety, those people were let down badly by a greedy, whitewashing, disgusting, frankly, establishment. And it is the same for everybody who deserves it. And we have got hope, haven't we got hope? I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't think it's long before we get a second election. You know, it comes to something, doesn't it? When it's the DUP's reputation that is being tarnished by getting into bed with the government in power. So, you know, it is a matter of time. But let's be clear, we've got to be ready because we have got something worth fighting for. And I am talking about trade union freedoms because, believe you me, we fought that fight against the Trade Union Act, but that war is not over. And we will continue to fight for freedoms for trade unions to stand up and represent people. It is also about building a positive vision of great jobs, steady jobs, industries that we can be proud of, not 0 hours, not bogus self-employment, not rubbish low-paid jobs. I think we have got hope, we've got to be ready to fight for it, and most of all, it is almost within grasping distance. We will get justice, we will get the truth. Thank you.
What does it take? How many people have to lose their lives before this government can accept that injustice has happened? And that is why we will keep campaigning. Because people are dying now who were at Orgreave that day before they could see what happened and to get the truth and justice. Because we know that injustice was done to those who found themselves dragged through the courts, who had their lives put on hold, who lost their jobs, who found them put their whole families at risk as a result of what happened. And that's why we will keep campaigning. That's why we will keep pushing to get the files published, to get the truth out. That's why Yorkshire MPs will keep campaigning to get to the truth. It's why the Labour Party and Jeremy Corbyn will keep campaigning for that public inquiry we need, because we will all stand together to get the truth and justice about Orgreave. Thank you very much.
Quite briefly, what this is about is 24 building worker pickets were picked up 5 months after the building dispute in 1972, and between them there were 243 charges laid against them. 3 trials at Shrewsbury meant that 6 of them were imprisoned. 1 of them was imprisoned for 3 years, and that was for conspiracy to intimidate. affray and unlawful assembly. The other 6 got similar sentences. We knew, and everybody else did at the time, that this was, it was a make-believe. I know it sounds trite, but it isn't. These were trumped up charges, and the evidence that were laid against these pickets was just non-existent. And the reason I say non-existent is because I've been through every document, every trial transcript. I've spoken to people the length and breadth of this country. I've even got documents now which show how the police did it. So I'm not speaking something like off the top of my head here. I actually know what went on. Cutting a very, very long story short, our campaign has been going for 10 years. The cases with the Criminal Cases Review Commission, only the CCRC can refer the Pickett's case back to the Court of Appeal, where we are absolutely certain those charges and convictions will be quashed. However, we expect that decision within the next 2 weeks. They've said they're going to give us the decision in 2 weeks' time. We've got no illusions whatsoever that a government who put these people, our pickets away, are going to now vindicate them. We've got no illusions in that. And we have got strategies in place for whatever the decision brings us. But can I just say now, John McDonnell and Jeremy Corbyn are 2 people who I could never thank enough, because they've assisted us from day one. Not now, not when it's, people come along and say, well, not now. It was 10 years ago. It was 10 years ago, and that should be acknowledged. Now, he has pledged, the Labour Party have pledged in a manifesto, along with the wonderful brave Orgreave campaign, the Hillsborough campaign, the Blacklist and Camelairds, that they will have public inquiries and they will also release our documents, because that's what I need, those documents to be released. And I've got no problem whatsoever in standing here telling you today they will be released. It's not if if they come under Section 23 we can't do it. Those documents will be released. And the reason I say that is, in 2007 we asked Jack Straw if he would release the documents relating to the Shrewsbury trials, and we were turned down. And I've had to go with other people the length and breadth of this country to get the evidence, the fresh evidence which has been needed for the CCRC. If those archives would have been open then it would have been all over. So what my word today is this: we've got to keep that pressure on. We've got to keep it on. We've got to get Jeremy in. We've got to get John McDonnell in. These are the people who'll do it. I've got every faith in them. And thank you very, very much for listening to me. Thank you.
I'd just like to return to the theme of today, first of all, about women on the strike. I'm unusual because I was on strike for the year. I was in the white collar section of the NUM, Colliery Officials and Staffs Association. So one of the few women who were on strike. But there were women involved in the strike, people who worked in offices, women who worked in the canteens, women who were cleaners. Our contribution to that strike tends to be overlooked. The great saving grace for me early in the strike was the Women Against Pit Closure movement. It literally gave me a morale boost that I don't think I'd experienced up until that point. There were some incredible women involved all over the country. I'll just mention a few of them. Brenda Proctor, Anne Scargill, Betty Heathfield and Betty Cook. When I joined Sheffield Women Against Pit Closures about May or June of the strike, I was just bowled over by their energy and commitment. They'd got a real can-do attitude. We can do anything. And we literally did go out and do anything.
any of the skills that I'm now displaying in terms of public speaking, organisation, commitment, etc., I learned in that strike. So that strike was a fantastic year for me, a fantastic gift, and I met wonderful people, and I continue to work with wonderful people on the campaign, and it's so heartening to see you all here today supporting us. Women waiting to find out what had happened on the 18th of June, waiting those long hours, wondering why their husbands, sons, grandchildren, whatever, had not come home that day. And then the year-long wait for the trial, the emotional upset that went through families when they thought that those men who'd been arrested may end up serving life in prison, because that was the threat from Leon Britton at the time, the Home Secretary. They could have gone to prison for life. So it's not just the people who are actually on strike. All of these things ripple through families, and families had a hard time emotionally standing together. But we stood together and we got through it. And it's really heartening to see that same display of solidarity and support demonstrated here today. We're not interested in criminal trials and criminal prosecutions of low-level police officers who were just doing what they were told on the day. We want the true version out there. We know what the true version is, but there's millions of people out there who don't. So our work continues to get that true version out there. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Barbara.